Okay, so Kal Kadosh Erev Tov, we're going to speak about today. This is going to be shiur number 9, which we're going to speak about an incredible concept which is called Chinuch le'erechin. Chinuch le'erechin means as follows. If I want right now that my child is going to do something, is it better that I have to tell them to do it, or they want to do it? They want to do it, right? Now, why should it be like that? Because by nature, what happens? When I tell you to do something, you push back. That's called, we explained it, if you remember, in the psychology, we said that a human being is made out of Yesod HaEsh, which means out of fire. The fire has a rebellion. So, for example, if I come and I tell you, right, if you decide to do it on your own, so you did it on your own accord. But if I come and I tell you to do something, you don't want. So, for example, let's say you're smoking, and I tell you stop smoking. What happens automatically? You're going to want to smoke, and you'll smoke them in front of my face, or you'll do it even if it's by my back. Or if I'm going to force you not to do it, you're going to make sure that I'm not watching or whatever it is, and you're going to do it. But why? Because this is the nature of a human being. But if I make that you want to stop smoking, so what happens? It's much easier. And that's really be'emet a chokhmah, a wisdom to always direct or channel, that you always want to direct them, that it's not you're telling them what to do, it's just that you're putting them in a situation of this is what they want. Okay? Very important. Now, obviously, we're going to have to speak about, so how do we do that? Right? But fine. So we're going to start, okay? This is the power of positive chinuch. There was a story during COVID, something that happened incredible, right? What happened is that there was a family in Bet Shemesh that the woman had to give birth. She had 4 or 5 children, and she had to give birth, and she starts crying because she goes to the hospital to give birth, and nobody's able to take care of her children. Her husband is sick in the hospital, almost dying. She doesn't even know what's happening with the husband in one hospital. She's in another hospital giving birth, and by law, nobody could come and take care of the children. So every single day, what would happen is that, you have these guys in spacesuits, right? That they would come and take swabs and all those things. Remember, in Israel, it was very, very, it was very powerful, you understand? So therefore, they were very strict. It wasn't like, here in Miami, it was, it was a shuk. It was a free-for-all, you understand? But in many places, they were very, very strict. I remember in certain places, you couldn't even go on the streets. You couldn't even drive. You couldn't, it depends on, these people could drive on this day, the other day,
France had to get permission to leave the house.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. France, Canada, certain places, and I remember that for them it was. The truth is, I don't have to go that far. There was somebody. I remember even here, that he was a little bit. Off, meaning that he was an elderly person, and when he didn't go out. Right? So I remember I went to visit him. He didn't want to get dressed. He didn't want to do anything. He was like it was, meaning that mentally it was worse for them to be isolated in a COVID state than to be out and actually, even get it, because it mentally it was killing them. It was killing the people. So imagine what happens now that this woman has 5 children, and it's a very big dilemma. Why is it a dilemma? Because ke'ilu, by law, right, you have a problem. But what happened? It caught the news. Something incredible. There was a news station that they came, obviously non-religious, and they interviewed a girl from the balcony. What happened was, it was a 12-year-old girl, a neighbor, that she came over, and she jumped into the fire, right? And what happened? She was taking care of all these 4 or 5 children. So imagine a 12-year-old girl taking care of all these children. And what happens is that she's going to bathe them, take care of them. Remember, there was nothing, no school, no not. So she did everything for them, for these 4 or 5 children, everything from A to Z, as if it was the mother, and she was doing it. Okay, fine. She was going to make a Pesach Seder for them, and mamash, it was something incredible. The father of this girl was downstairs throwing up everything that she needed. She needed, whatever it is, the eggs, the charot, whatever she needed. She had to throw it up into the balcony, right? The diapers, whatever it is. So they come and they interview, and they're like, okay, fine. They went and they said, why are you doing this? So she went and she said, well, somebody had to do it. Says, yeah, but, why? He said, listen, I babysat the kids before, right? I've got it. So he said, but you don't even miss being with your parents? She says, yeah, but you have to do what you have to do. So he says, but how are you going to run the Seder on your own? You're a 12-year-old girl. So he says, okay, it's fine. They told me what to do. I have instructions. I'll be able to handle it. And that's it. Now, what was so incredible about this little tiny hero of a girl of a 12-year-old is it was like mamash, a short-term celebrity on the news and everything, is that a non-religious person does not even understand how does that work. You know, like, why are you going to give up from yourself to come into certain, but they don't realize that the Torah comes and tells you that you should do these things. Now, the question, though, is, what caused her to do this? Meaning, was there something here that was triggering for a girl to do such an enormous act of chesed that she's going to give up from herself selflessly in order to do this for somebody else? And again, okay, it could be even a neighbor, but we're not talking about a family member or something that she's going to do such a thing. So if you remember, we spoke about already that discipline, right, and identity. You remember we went and we said, right, the following. You remember we said like this. One of the strongest things that we said is no person has ever become connected to something through criticism or negativity. Okay, so therefore, if you're going to be negative or you're going to criticize, don't ever think you're going to make a connection. So now, fear and authority, what it does is it creates structure. Why? I have authority. So I come and I make a structure. I come and I say, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. It makes a structure, right? The discipline creates responsibility, right? When I discipline someone, it gives them responsibility. You have to have this, you have to take a shower, you have to do this, you have to do these things. When I come and I give positivity, you remember that was last shiur and 2 weeks ago, and idud, which is encouragement, positive encouragement, what happens? I make a connection with it. You connect. Why? Because I like it. There's something that all of a sudden connects me with it. So what happens is that discipline is necessary, but it cannot come and create an attachment to it. So what we have to come back to is now understand as follows. You remember when we were speaking about how do you do chinuch? So we spoke about that in order to do chinuch, you have to activate them, which means you have to make them do something, but then you have to connect them to it. So for example, if I want a child to come and to pray, so the first thing I'm going to have to tell them is, Daven, right? Pray. But now, how do I do it in a way that it's going to connect them to the tefillah? How do I do it that in the future, he's also going to want to do it? Because if not, I'm just going to tell him like this, it's not going to really work. So, which one?
Lead by example, no?
That's for sure. 100% by lead by example, but I have to also connect them to it. How am I going to connect them to it? Yeah? Meaning, how do I connect a child to doing something, right? How do I do that? How am I going to come and I'm going to do that? Exactly. Positivity. The yidud. The yidud. What does it mean, the yidud? So for example, imagine right now, right, and this is what we're going to speak about today a lot, is for example, simcha. Happy. If I'm going to give off that the happiest person alive is a person that he comes and that he's going to do a mitzvah. He's happy about it. So what happens? It changes their entire effect. I actually just heard an incredible story this morning from a big rabbi. He went and he gave an example. Everyone knows the famous example. You remember the Rav Moshe Feinstein. The Rav Moshe Feinstein came and he said that there were two people that they basically lost their jobs every single Erev Shabbat. One of the people, his children were 100% religious, children, grandchildren, everything. And the other one, nobody was religious. So he went to Rav Moshe Feinstein and he said, I don't understand what's going on. Like, we're both the same. We both, every Friday, we were losing our jobs, everything. So tell me what's the difference. So he went and he asked him, what did you do when you lost your job? So he was thinking and he said, listen, I went home and I said, oh, again, I lost my job because of Shabbat. So he went and he said, that's what was the difference. He says the other person was dancing around. That look that I was put into such a challenge and the Kiddushat Shabbat is so important that I went and lost my job. So this morning I heard an extension to that part of the story that there was a person, right, that he came and they used to get a pink slip. So they used to start the job on Sunday, right, or on Monday. I think it was Sunday even during those days, right? They didn't get off, I think, on Sunday. And then what happened is that on Saturday, if they wouldn't come on Saturday, so on Friday you would come and you would say to your boss, listen, I'm not coming tomorrow. What happened? Boom, you would get a pink slip. And the pink slip is, you're fired. He went and he said, you know what happened? They're going to decorate the sukkah this year. And you know how you're going to decorate the sukkah? With all the pink slips. So he put all the pink slips all over the sukkah. What was he showing the children? He was showing the children, this is my biggest, this is my simcha, this is what it is. I had a Rosh Kolel. He wasn't a Rosh Kolel. He was actually the one supporting the Kolel. And this gave the true value of what is Torah, right? He went and he told us, by the way, you should know, he says, I'm waiting for you guys to get your smicha papers. So we went and he said, why? He says, because I put it in my safe. They said, what? He said, yeah. In his safety deposit box, in the safe, in the kasefet, you know what he has? He doesn't have jewelry and all these things. That. He says, you know why? Because with those papers, I'm going to Olam Haba. They understood, right, what it is, that this is, you're doing it with happiness. If you're going to come and you're going to do it with happiness, so then what's going to happen? It's a different world. Why is it going to be a different world? Because right now, when you're going to come and you're going to pay attention to it, if you come and, I'm coming to Shachrit, what are you waiting for? I'm waiting for it to finish. So therefore, obviously, they're not going to want to come at all. Right. If you're going to do something, and they're going to say, you're at a Shabbat table, right? Every single Friday night it happens, you just want to finish the Shabbat meal, right? Why? Because you're already tired, you want to go to sleep. So what's going to happen? They're not going to want to sing the Zemirot Shabbat. They're going to go straight to sleep. Because for them, if it wasn't done with happiness, there's nothing there. So the simcha is the glue. The simcha is the connection that only through happiness, only through happiness, what's going to happen? You're going to come and you're going to, when you have pleasure, plaisir. You know what that is? Plaisir. So when a person has pleasure, that connects the children to what you want to do, right? Very, very good. Now, what happens is that we're going to speak about now about the chinuch for values. So obviously, it had to be that this 12-year-old girl, she always had, right? This 12-year-old girl, she probably had somebody that said, you know what? You're an incredible babysitter. You're incredible with children. And therefore, it attached her to the action that now she wants to do this. And the same thing happened. There was a famous woman that she was a baker. So the rabbi once went to her and he said, by the way, how did you know you were such a good baker? Was it that your mother once came and you did mishloach manot or whatever it is, and all of a sudden, you baked something and your mother said, you're incredible, it was very good, and therefore it happened? She said, it wasn't even my mother. It was my friend's mother. I went and I made mishloach manot. I made some type of good cookies. And when I got it, I got so many compliments that such a good baker, I wanted to become a baker, so I became a baker. And then it opened up that this is what I want to do, because there was a positive energy, there was something positive that I have a value in it, that they say, come and say, you know what, wow, look what's inside of this. Now, when we're going to be speaking about this, it's even a little bit more than that. Why? When we speak about chinuch for values, which means we have a value system, you remember we spoke about how do we connect with our children. So the positivity, we said you should always make eye contact with them, which means if I'm coming and I'm doing like this, right? So I'm not really paying attention, right? They're speaking to you, right? It's not really there, right? They actually say that the women always make a joke about the men, right? That they come and they say that if a man's busy reading something and they come and they ask him something, he's not really paying attention. So what happens? They come and they say, no, but did you just realize what he asked? So many times they'll come and the mother will come and say, by the way, did you just realize? So they come and they joke around that if you ever want something from a man, especially for women, just that way you should know that, you come, you ask your husband, he's busy doing something, can I buy myself this thing? And he's not even going to pay attention. Yeah, okay, fine. Now record it. And then afterwards when he comes, he says, by the way, I saw the credit card statement. What's this thing? And he says, I'll give you. So what happens? All of a sudden, what happens is, he said, hey, but you said it, but you weren't really paying attention. Eye contact is number one. Listening, spending time together. You remember with every single child, right? Emotional safety. What does it mean? They come and they feel there's an identity. So when a person comes and they feel that, there's something incredible that's going to happen. Rav Wolbe says, if you have an emotional connection with your child, children naturally want to become like the parents. Meaning, if you have a healthy relationship with your child, you don't have to do anything else. The children naturally will want to become like you. Now, why? So, for example, let's say you love music. Yeah? When you love music, what happens is that naturally, the child will want, and if he's connected to you, he'll love music. Not because he was told to love music, but because I want to be like my daddy. And if my papa or whatever it is loves music, I also want to do the same thing. And the same thing is Baalet Tfilah, right? Do you know there was he says there was a rabbi that he said that he had a son-in-law, right? That he was a Baal Tfilah. Now, why was he Baal Tfilah? He says because already for 4 generations he was like a shliach tzibur. So he comes and he says when this boy was bar mitzvah, what happened is that they told him, "Nu bechavod, go do shliach tzibur." So now this is for the Ashkenazim, right? So he comes, he goes to do it. He says obviously he was nervous, 100%. But he says, but technically speaking, he's looking around, he looks behind, he sees his father, he sees his grandfather. They were all Baalet Tfilah for generations. So for him, it was something normal for him to do that. Now, for another person, for example, of a rabbi, maybe for him it's like a shiur. Maybe being a Baal Tfilah, he doesn't know how to because it doesn't speak to him. Because for him, it's not the same thing. But it all depends on what you're trying to bring up in the values. So when we're going to speak about the entire concept of the emotional bond, when it's very, very strong, we want that the children should be like us. So what happens is, in fact, right, we have to actually pay attention to this. Now, we are going to mention a very important halacha, right, which is actually something incredible. Do you know there's a Tana D'Veliyahu, right? And by the way, you should know, this always usually happens, that the people that need to hear it, they're not here, right? So since they're not here, so now I could say it freely, right? The Tana D'Veliyahu comes and he says something incredible. The Tana D'Veliyahu was written by Eliyahu Navi Zachulatov, that he taught it to one of the Moraim. And when he taught it to one of the Moraim, what happened was he comes and he says like this. He says there was a father that used to bring his young child to the Bet Knesset every single day. And what happened was that they're coming and they're answering the tefillah, whichever part of the tefillah, and the child was saying nonsense. So they went and they told the father, well, so he said, he's a little child, let him play. What do you want? Let him play. Okay. Second day, same thing. Third day, fourth day. By the time it comes after a few days, right, the father's not doing anything. He doesn't really care. He just says, let the child play. It's a child. What do you want? Right? So just let him play. So the Tana D'Veliyahu says it didn't pass, right, a few months that the person, right, that his wife passed away, the children passed away, and the only one was left was 2 different children. One of them was like a lame, whatever it is, like with one problems, and then another one with another type of problems. So what is the Tana D'Veliyahu telling us? It's brought down in the Mishnah Brura that he says the place for children is not in the Bet Knesset. What does that mean? He says children should only be in the Bet Knesset when they're able to behave. If they're not able to behave, they shouldn't be in the Bet Knesset. So that means that there's a certain age that they have to be there. So for example, even for myself, and even if I had the boy, I would never bring him to the Bet Knesset right away. I would wait. So for example, with my son Hillel, right? Even I started actually with one of my daughters in Gibraltar. I used to take them only on Friday nights. Why? Because they used to do Shira Shirim before. So I used to do Shira Shirim at home, come to the Bet Knesset. It was around 45-minute tefillah. There was no speech actually. So it was around 45 minutes tefillah. So therefore, it was a very short tefillah. They already knew Kriyat Shema from me. They already knew Mizmor LeDavid because they used to sing it all the time. So therefore, for them, they used to sit beside me from the beginning of the tefillah until the end of the tefillah. They were, let's say, 6 years old, right? It started 6 years old, 7 years old, right? 6 or 7 years old, right? Right? Less than that, no, right? 6, 7 years old. That's when they would come, right? And then what happened is here, for example, for Hillel, same thing. You would never. So what are we trying to get to? The Mishnah Berurah brings down that people, they come and they bring children to the Bet Knesset and they start making noise. Says the Mishnah Berurah, it's better that they shouldn't have come at all, right? And for those people, they have a heter not to pray b'tzibur. Meaning a person comes and he calls me up and he says, Rabbi, right, I've got a choice. It's either I bring my 2-year-old or whatever it is and they're going to be jumping off the walls, right? Or I pray at home. The answer, pray at home. Halacha. The Shlach Kadosh actually brings down that he says that they're not going to get reward for bringing the children. They're going to get an avirah for bringing the children. So therefore, let's go back, right? When, right? Exactly. 100%. I have it ready. Don't worry about it. Right? Yeah, we have it there. It's ready. The problem is the people that need to hear it, they're either going to be late or they're not going to be listening. All right, they're not going to be listening because of the kids, whichever one it
It's always
is.
the same kids.
Okay, you're right. You're right.
Always
But
the
But
same
you
people.
still do that to this day? You
The what?
bring your kids until they're 6 years old minimum.
of course, Hillel. First of all,
Hillel was
no.
younger,
So now
because
once
he was very behaved.
Hillel was very behaved. No, but listen.
Sitting next to you.
So listen carefully. Listen what in chinuch wise. Listen carefully. The best thing that you want is that your child should want to come to shul, and you say no. Not now.
Make them more.
And you make them want more. So what happens? When they get a little bit older, you come and you say, you know what? I'm going to take you for 10 minutes. And by the way, you should know, I used to do that. I used to bring Hillel sometimes. And then what happened was that my daughters, whatever, they would come and pick him up and take him because it was going to be too long. Or for example, he would come for this and it was going to be too long. Why? Because you didn't, whatever, depends the age. Depends on age. Depends on the ages. You understand? So therefore, what are we trying to mention? This should be on everything. Meaning, by everything, what you should want is that really, be'emet, they want it. And then you keep on telling them, no. And then finally, when you come and you tell them, you know what? Okay, fine, come tonight now for a few minutes. Or you'll come later on. Yeah, or this or that. You understand? Meaning, by doing that, what are you doing? You're nurturing that they want it. You're never going to have to tell them to come to the Beit Knesset. They're always going to want to come to the Beit Knesset because they want it. And you're the one that was always saying no. Instead of the opposite, come to the Beit Knesset. I'm forcing you to come to the Beit Knesset. Why are you forcing them to come to the Beit Knesset? Then they're going to come. They're not going to behave. So it's the exact opposite of the way the chinuch actually works. You have to make it that they want it. Now, how are you going to do that? So now, how do we do it that you want it? You understand? It sounds very beautiful. You understand? Like, it's incredible. So for example, right, I come in, I would want that they should learn, that they want to learn all night. And you're going to tell them, right now you're too young. What's going to happen? Right? No, but Papi, I want to continue learning whatever is the Chumash or whatever it is for another hour. So normal people would go, yeah, he wants to learn. The exact opposite. Right? No, you're too young. You can't do that. What is it going to make? They're going to want it. They're going to want. So what happens? You say, you know, okay, fine. Tonight you get an extra 5 minutes. He's enjoying himself. Another 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. When he gets a little bit older, another hour, you always make it that they want to do it. Because if not, then we're working backwards. We're working that I have to force them to do something that they don't want to do. And that way it's never going to work well.
So it's not the
So therefore, if we're going to continue, right, there's going to be a list. How do we make a connection between value? Remember, what's tonight's topic? We're trying to make a connection that we want that the children should come and they should be connected to something. So there's going to be lo ta'asez and asez, meaning don't do's and do things. So number one, right, one thing that you're never going to do, remember, criticize. Never criticize a child because criticizing them will never make a connection. So for example, I want them to say Birkat Hamazon. They come, they start the Birkat Hamazon and they ate it up. Now, if I'm going to criticize him of how he did Birkat Hamazon, do you think that he's going to want to do Birkat Hamazon? Obviously not. Because I just criticize him. Criticizing will not make a connection. I want to make a connection, which means I want to do something that you'll love it for the rest of your life. Now, how am I going to do that then? Right? How do I do it that for the rest of you're going to love it? So, number one, make sure that what you're not going to do, never criticize. There's no such thing as criticizing. Criticism, we had an entire shiur on it 2 weeks ago, if you remember, about criticism, right? Remember, we're going to actually finish the shiur today with a beautiful story about criticism, of a Gadol Ador, of how he gave criticism, just to understand. But therefore, what? Positivity. Then number one, okay? Right? Also, when we're talking about the concept of the chinuch, another thing is extortion. What does that mean? For example, I'm going to, right? You remember we spoke about this? Right? Imagine right now I'm going to come and I'm going to say to you like this. By the way, you should know, right? I'll just give you the example, right? You're already here. Noah, thank you so much for helping me last Shabbat. You helped me so much. I can't wait for this Friday night that you're going to help me again. How does that make the girl feel? Terrible. Imagine I come and I tell you, by the way, you should know you helped me so much. By the way, can you also help me now? What does that make you feel? I don't want to do it. Right? Why? Okay, ke'ilu, you're buttering me up or you're giving me a compliment, but that compliment is not true. It's hollow. Why is it hollow? Because ke'ilu, I want something from you. So I'm taking you. That's not making a connection. That's bringing me far away from it. I don't want it. Right? Don't do me any favors. They come and say, you're such a good friend. You're like thinking to yourself, what do they want now? Why? Because you already know what's coming. You don't want it, right? So when they come and they do those things, that's called extortion. That is not going to make a connection. So obviously criticism is not good. Extortion is not good. Discipline is very good. It's a good tool, but it's not perfection. Why? Because when I discipline them and I tell them, daven or do something, again, one more time, they're going to do it, but I didn't make them the connection then. So then, right, I'm going to ask you a very simple question then. I want them to do something now. How do I get them to do it? How do I tell them to do it? How do I get them to do something, right, that I want them to do right now?
You tell them to do it, and then you.
But we just said that doesn't help.
Me,
No,
I
it's
make them just like a
discipline.
challenge.
It's discipline, but it's not going to help because I'm never going to get them to want to do it.
No, but then you attach it with the connection.
But again, that's
Positivity.
post factum.
Yeah.
That's post factum. So it's a trick question, but you know what the answer is? I can't do it right now. So I'll give you. I can't do anything now. So I'll give you the example.
Excited.
Which one?
Make them excited.
How do you make them excited?
Just like make them proud, or just like a challenge. Like I
Ah,
have a very good trick. Like,
Okay. One second. Very good. No. He's on the ball. One second. So for example, I'll give you an example, right? You want to train your children or train your daughters to help. Okay. So now, if I'm going to come and command them, do this, do that, what's going to happen? So therefore, they don't really want to do it, right? They don't want to. They want to read, and you're telling them clear the table, wash the dishes, broom the floor, sweep the floor. Do that. I want to read, or I want to go to sleep, or I want to have fun. Fine. So what do you want to do? Discipline. What is the discipline? Right. Do it. Okay, fine. They're going to do it, right? Let's say they're going to do it. And remember, when we talked about discipline, we said never start with things that are going to get them, that are very difficult. So for example, if you remember, we spoke about don't do discipline on bedtime, because many times they're not going to listen to you. Do it on easy things. Don't do it on religion. Do it on very easy things, right? But what happens? Let's even pretend they're going to do it. But now, I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for me, because I want to help. So what would be the real story of getting them to do it for themselves? You know how it is? If, let's say, for example, I'm a multimillionaire, and I've got all the maids, and all of a sudden, right, my wife comes and tells her daughter, by the way, come, let's make the challah. So the daughter's going to say, I don't understand what, the maids didn't come, you're like, what, we don't have the cleaning lady today? Like, what happened today? So she's going to say, no, we have them. But Bezrat Hashem, when you're going to get married, you're going to need to know how to make challah. So therefore come and we're going to do challah. Now what are you doing? You're doing it for them. You're not doing it for you. It's only 100% netto for who? For the children. That is called the chinuch, right? The education that you're not doing it for yourself. Now again, if in extenuating circumstances and now you're in dire need, yeah, you're right. You just command them and that's it. But they're not going to love doing it. Why? Because they were forced to doing it and they don't really want to.
But Birkat Hamazon, you have to tell them to do it.
Then once they're doing it, but you should make that they should want to do it. Right? Now, how are you going to make it that they want to do it? So, for example, you come and you're doing it, let's say, with the older children, and you're singing along with them, and all of a sudden, they're going to also want to do it. He said, no, you're right now too young. If you want, maybe you could just do the first bracha. And they're going to say, no, but Papi, I want to do the entire thing. Right now, you just do the first one. What happens? I just mean that they want to continue doing it. They want to be big. They want to be big children.
So then in what scenario do you
the discipline? No. Discipline is when you need to. Tonight's shiur is that if we're going to do something, which is even better than discipline. Discipline is b'diavad, meaning I need them to do something, I'm going to discipline. Why, for example, I want you right now to come and to keep Shabbat 15 minutes earlier. So I could either come and do discipline. I'm going to call you up. I'm going to say, did you stop doing did you stop doing melacha? Stop doing melacha now. I just did discipline. I've got a tool which is even much more effective. You know how it's much more effective? You on your own, you're going to do it. Right. That's much stronger, and it's going to be even much better. Right. The first one is before the maaseh, right? Which means before the action is what we're going to do is, you remember we spoke about this, is to catch them red-handed. What does that mean? For example, right? You remember we spoke about it, that we said, what happens right now if you have your daughter has an entire thing of cookies and she's eating them, right? She's eating the entire thing, and all of a sudden one falls on the floor. Now she doesn't want to eat it, so she's gonna go and throw it out, and all of a sudden she sees her little sister, and she comes and she gives it to her. Yeah? So now, technically speaking, you should come and you should say, "Ach, Shoma, this is what you're giving to your little sister." But what happens if you flip it? And you come and you say, "Wow, that's so nice of you. You came and you shared with your younger sister." What happens now in the brain of that girl? She wants to share with her sister. Now, deep down inside of her, she didn't want to share. She was going to throw it out in the garbage. She gave her you understand, like she gave her, but you don't go after the machshavot of what's happening. Catch her red-handed that she did something good. Catch her red-handed that now what happens is in her mind, she becomes a chesed girl. So now by definition, who am I? I'm Mrs. Chesed. I can't do that. I have to do chesed. So that's what I'm going to do. Right? And that's what you're going to have to do. You know, there was an incredible story I actually just told my children, right? That happened. It was in the Adarabah, something incredible. He said that right during the Second World War, right, there was a huge amount of poverty. People didn't have food. So what happened was that there was an elementary school in Eretz Yisrael where the Rosh Yeshiva, his name was Rav Meir Orbach, he went and he said, you know what? I'm going to collect money and I'm going to give during recess a piece of bread to every single one of the children. So he went and he did that, and he collected money, and he was giving them an extra piece of bread. You know, to every single child had a piece of bread. What happened was something incredible, right? All of a sudden, all the breads they're eating, you know, all the children they're eating it, so it's very, very good. Okay, fine. There was one boy, every single day he would come and throw it over the fence. So okay, they don't understand what's going on. They come, right, and the boys, they start telling him. He doesn't listen. He continues doing it. So after a week or week and a half, the boys, they go to the Rebbe. They go to the Rosh Yeshiva and they tell him, by the way, this boy is doing that. So the Rosh Yeshiva comes to the boy and he tells him, listen, if you don't want your bread, somebody else could eat it, right? But don't throw it away. Fine. He realizes the boy continues doing it. He didn't understand what happened. The Rosh Yeshiva says there's something deep here. There's something... Huh? You know what happened? The boy, right? What happened is that the Rosh Yeshiva went to the house. And the father opens up the door and he comes and he tells him the story. So the father comes and he tells him, I'm going to tell you the secret. He says, really, Be'emet, they have no food. And every day when the boy would come home and he would say that he had an extra piece of bread, the younger brother was jealous. He also wanted a piece of bread, but he didn't have it. So every single day, this boy would come and throw over his piece of bread over the fence in order that his younger brother was going to come a few minutes later, right, in order to pick it up. And therefore he would eat it. So the Shiva said, look at this. I went and I was taking the boy as something negative, that look what he's doing. And really, Be'emet, look what Mesirut Nefesh that the boy was doing in order to give a piece of bread to his brother. You understand? So I went and I told my children, I went and I said, you should know, I remember I was a very young boy. I was probably 6 or 7 years old. And I told them, I remember what my grandmother once told me. My grandmother once told me that she was a young girl. She was one of the oldest of the girls. She went and she started working. She said, you know what the first thing that I did with my money in Morocco was? They weren't rich. The majority of people in Morocco were not rich at all. You know what I did? She went and she bought a pair of shoes for all of her brothers and sisters. Meaning the first money that she ever made, that she started working, she bought shoes for all her siblings. I said, that's what it is. The love of what you're supposed to have for your siblings. That's what you're supposed to have. Now, when you come and you say that's such a thing, it comes and it starts triggering in their minds. You know what? 1 second. So, for example, if you have a boy that he doesn't want to say Birkat Hamazon, I'm not going to come and command him to do Birkat Hamazon. I'm going to start speaking about the beauty of Birkat Hamazon. What happens? What's going to happen when you say Birkat Hamazon? Where does Birkat Hamazon come from? What's happening when we're blessing Hashem and all the bracha that comes and everything? All of a sudden, when you start coming and speaking about stories like that, you're going to get them to want to do it. If I'm going to come and tell them point blank with a gun, do Birkat Hamazon, okay, maybe today they'll do it. Tomorrow they're not going to do it. If they're not beside me, you think they're going to do it? Or in a year or 10 years, they're not going to do it. So therefore, you always, with religion, you try as much as possible, no discipline. Once in a while, you might need to. But usually, anything to do with religion, you try as much as possible that they want to do it. They have to have a yearning for it, that this is what they actually want to do. Okay? Fine. What happens now is, there's another concept. So this Romain mentioned before, you have to get them excited, right? So there's a term in French, which I think is called corps d'esprit, corps d'esprit. Corps d'esprit. How do you say d'esprit? Corps d'esprit. What's corps d'esprit?
L'esprit.
D'esprit. What's esprit?
Spirit.
Team spirit.
Okay.
So team spirit, he comes and he says, right? It says like this: naturally, they want a part. No, so it's true. I actually looked it up online. It says it's for the esprit de keep, right? But then afterwards, you could say other ways of saying it is corps d'esprit. It says okay, that's the way that they used to say it. I don't know, maybe it's in the old French or whatever it is, but fine. But basically, it's team spirit. How do you do team spirit? So he says the way to do team spirit is that you want to get them to come to do it. So for example, let's say it's Sukkot. Yeah? Imagine right after Kippur, you were very, very busy. It's coming Sukkot. It was Shabbat. You had no time. And all of a sudden, it's coming close to Sukkot and you don't have anything ready. So what you do is you come and you take all your children and you bring them there and you say, by the way, you should know, we've got 10 jobs to do, right? So we're 5 of us. Every single person, let's take 2 jobs. Who wants to do what? Tell me what you want to do, right? Now, you're going to tell me, Rabbi, well, you're going to have one of the children that they're going to come and they're going to say, listen, I don't want to do anything. I want to go and sit down and read a book. What do you mean, what do I want to do? I don't want to do anything. One more time. If a person has a personal relationship with their parents, and their parents are their best friends, their parents is the one that they give, if you remember, they have responsibility. Why? Because they discipline them. They have authority, right? They come and they love them. They give them attention, right? They're having their one-on-ones with them. They want to be the best friends of their parent. So what happens? They're going to want to make them happy subconsciously. Meaning deep down in their mind, they want to make their parents happy. And by the way, you should know, it's not only their parents, even teachers. You should know deep down inside, even a boy or a girl that they're troublemakers, they want that their teachers should be happy with them. They want it. That's what they're yearning for. The only thing is sometimes they just don't know how to do it, so they'll do negative attention. They'll do it, in a bad way instead of a good way or whatever it is. But they want to please. They want to make people happy. It's natural. So what happens? When you come and you do it with a team spirit and you get them all excited, it's a team effort. All of a sudden they want to come and they want to do that. So that's Beshat Maseh, meaning during the action, if right now I have to do something, how am I going to do it? So it's true, I could command them. You do A, B, you do C, D, you do E, F. It's not going to be the same if we just do it this way. Because the way that we just taught you how to do it right now, it's a completely different world. Why? Because now they want to do it. It's something natural, right, of what they're doing it. So therefore, as we already mentioned, right, it's very, very important always to realize this concept, okay? I'm going to go now to another topic, very, very short. I'm going to try to shorten it. And then we go to the last story, which is basically going to be how to give criticism, okay? This part is going to be as follows. Whenever we're talking about Olam Hazeh, this world, we always have to speak about being happy. What does that mean, being happy? Very, very important, right? What happened is that there was a bachur that once went to one of the rabbis, and he was at a wedding. He says, "What a beautiful wedding." He says, "What a beautiful wedding." What is that? He says, "What? Everything is so nice." He goes, "You see the father? The father he just paid for the wedding. Within 2-3 weeks, he's probably going to be in a wheelchair after, all the debt and everything that he got into and everything. What you think? Fine." So he says, "Okay." He said, "But look at the Khatam V'Kala. Look how happy they are." He looks at the rabbi. He says, "Rabbi, give me a break. They just got married. Wait a few months. You're going to see the smiles off their face. It's going to be off their face. Well, you know what marriage is, right?" So he goes, "Okay." So he says, "What about?" He says, "Do you realize what's going on?" Right? It depends on the way that you look at everything. So what happens? What happened is this person, he was always looking in a negative factor, which means he never had really true simchat hachaim. He was never really happy with himself. So for example, I'll give you an example. Why is it that imagine right now a chatan comes, or there's a brit milah, we don't say tachronim. You know why we don't say tachronim? It's a simcha of everybody. It's like ki'ilu that in the next world we're going to come, and it's me'en olam haba that, wow, it's a true simcha. You're not going to need to do it, right? So imagine what it is. But now why? Because they know what true simcha is. There was just a story that I heard this morning that somebody said that they went to Orlando, right? And they were all at the park. And all of a sudden they come and they said, "Okay, fine, we're going to do mincha and everything. Imagine it's Rosh Chodesh, so we're going to start dancing and we're going to start doing all these things, right? We're going to dance away." And all of a sudden they come and they turn around or whatever and they say, "You know what? We're all happy, correct? Everyone's happy? Yeah, everyone's happy. So you know what? We're not going to do tachanun today." So they skipped out the tachanun. 1 second. That's not That's not happiness. That's what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Okay, if it's Rosh Chodesh, there's something else. But what does that mean? You're all jolly, happy? So what does that mean exactly, be happiness? So obviously there's something that we're missing, right, in this concept of happiness, that what exactly is going on? What exactly is happiness? A person has to be true joy from within, that he's happy with what he's doing in his life. Okay, so therefore, what happens is that if right now you're always going to be happy with what you're doing, so therefore in a happy lifestyle, you don't have to do anything else. So the Rav Matisyahu Solomon actually said this. He said, if you only restrain a child with yirat shamayim, right, meaning that you only put fear in a child, they're going to snap, right? And then that's it. He says, Ashre ish, right, yareh et Hashem, fortunate is a person that he's God-fearing, b'mitzvotav chafetz me'od, but he has to yearn to do the mitzvot. Why is he yearning to do the mitzvot? He says it has to be that he loves it. He has a value system that's not only in fear. If he only has it on fear, it's not going to work. So now we're going to finish with the beautiful story of how Rav Elia Lopian gave Musar to a 14-year-old. Rav Elia Lopian was very, very old. And this is just to show you that if we would give criticism in this way, you should criticize your children every day. Right? But listen to what he did. What happened was Rav Elia Lopian, he was the mashkiach of the mashkichim. And he used to walk with a 14-year-old boy every single day from his house to the yeshiva, to Kol Torah, where they were, right? Now, he was such a real person, it was something incredible. So they used to come, they used to walk, and they used to speak and everything. And he realized that the 14-year-old boy had a minhag, that what he used to do was, every single day, many times he would walk by, he would grab a leaf off the bush, right? Or off of the trees in the area, and then he would chew on it. Right? Many times they would come and they would do these things. They would chew on it and then, spit it out or whatever it is, and that's it. So fine. Rav Elia Lopian didn't do anything. And all of a sudden what happened is that one day Rav Elia Lopian comes and he tells him, by the way, right, I want to give you he tells him, do you know how chashuv you are? Do you know how important you are? So he comes and he says, I don't know, this and that. So he comes and he says, listen, right, I want you to understand, right, that you're very, very important. So he says, I don't know if I'm that, okay, how important am I actually really going to be? So he comes and he says, you know what, come upstairs. I want to give you candy so that way you can make a bracha. Now remember, their concept of candy was sugar cubes or something like that. That was the maximum, in those days. What do you want, candy? That's what I remember. What was candy? Hardly, So, okay, fine. So he comes and he says, okay. So he's going to go upstairs. He comes, he tastes the candy, he says a bracha, he answers amen, wow, okay, fine. And then he's going to go. And all of a sudden he comes and he asks him again, he says, I don't think you really realize how important you are. So he says, but why? He says, listen, I'm going to ask you a question, right? Let's start at the beginning of your day. How many mitzvot do you do at the beginning of the day? He says, every single day you're helping an elderly Jew, he was referring to himself, come and walk to shul. How many steps do you go? So he says, there's 843 steps to go to the shul. He says, on the way back, we take a slightly different route, so it's actually 896 steps, right? First of all, did you realize that Rav Elia Lopian is counting the steps to go to synagogue in order to say, right, how many steps, how many mitzvot am I doing? By the way, you should know, I had actually, when I came here almost 13 years ago, I once went and I walked, I think it was 25 minutes to get to somebody's house. And I went and I told him, by the way, isn't it very far away that you live? He goes, Rabbi, schar alicha, every step is a mitzvah. I said, wow, kol hakavod. That went until the scooters came. The second the scooters came, there was no more steps anymore. Everything was scooter. There's no more steps. You miss all the steps. What can you do? But okay, fine. So he went and he counted every single step. Then afterwards, he went and he said, so imagine, just on starting of your day, how many mitzvot do you do? 1,600 or whatever it is, 74 mitzvot. You just started getting started. So he says, wow. Now, but one second, when you come to me, you also say shachrit. Do you say shachrit? He says, yeah, I say shachrit. How many words do you have? Every single word is a mitzvah. How many words do you have birkot shachar? He went and he said some number, whatever it is, 600, whatever it was. How many words do you have in Psuket Zimra, from Baruch Sheman until Yishtabach? How many words do you have in Berachot Kriyat Shema, Shmona Esrei, and then you have the Kriyat Torah? He was giving him exact numbers of exactly how many mitzvot. He comes and he says, you're a millionaire. You know how many thousands of mitzvot that you have every single day? He says, I don't think you know what it is. So now he's going to criticize him. Remember, what was he going to criticize him about? taking the. So now he comes and he says, he shifts away from you, because beforehand he's speaking you to second person to you. Now he comes and says, imagine right now there's a young bachur that he was so chashuv, and he was so important, and now he wants to become even more important. So imagine, obviously, for a little effort, for sure he's going to do it. It's not that hard. Okay, fine. So he says, there's a habit that some bachurim, some boys, they come, and they take the leaf off the tree, and they come and they start chewing it. Now he says, imagine you understand what's happening. You've got it, right? Think about what's happening. Put a pause. You have a 98-year-old man taking 45 minutes in order to give rebuke and criticism to this 14-year-old boy. The majority of us would have told the boy immediately, stop chewing or stop whatever it is. It took him 45 minutes to make the boy feel that he was on top of the world in order to come and to stop doing this act. So he comes and he tells him, why is it such a chashuv? So he comes and he says, the reason why is, he says, because maybe the owners would rather that you don't pull off the leaves from the tree. So the boy comes and he says, right? So he says, okay, fine, but what it says in the Gemara that even if you would do that, since it's hanging over in the public domain, you're allowed to do that. Meaning, if you have a tree and it's hanging over and it's public domain, now you could pull off the leaves. So he went and he told him, you're correct. It wasn't really correct, but he says, you're correct. The Gemara, that's why I didn't say it was gezel. I didn't say you're stealing. I said, but why would you cause the owners of the tree that they should feel bad? Chaval, you're like, why should you make another Jew feel bad? Fine. Then he comes and he says, but even more than that. He says, right, 1 second, but if you're even not going to pay attention to that, there's something deeper. He says, imagine right now if a person's going to come and they're going to take this leaf and they're going to start chewing, and there was a little worm on it. And all of a sudden he comes and he says, and then he's going to be over on 5 averot. He went and he said it for the first time in his life. This 14-year-old boy went and he said, I realized what it is, Yirat Shamayim. I saw him cringe. I saw him like this, that he said that a person would be over on 5 averot in one shot by just chewing a bug. He went and said it was incredible. And then he came back to himself and he went and he said, so therefore if I would come and I would tell a person that if he's already so important that he would be even much more important, so obviously it would be so simple to do such a thing. So did you realize that the entire criticism was not to put him down? It was bringing him up. It was taking a 14-year-old boy and instead of coming and shooting him down, what are you doing? You're coming and you're ripping off leaves or you're chewing on something or I don't know what you're doing. He brought him up to such a level that was called real criticism. That's what's called how to do it. So again, what we're trying to just bring down, and this is what we're always trying to do with our children is that what we have to do is that we have to bring into our children, right? That we have to bring up joyful children that are happy, that they have simchat ha'chaim, that they're happy with what they're doing. And when we're going to have this, what happens is always make them connect. How do you connect? Catch them red-handed. You did something incredible. Look what you just did. Wow, right? You don't know how many times I come and I see a boy. They're not doing tefillah. Right? Recently, I don't even tell them anything. I go around, but all of a sudden they're going to say, wow, look, you're sitting beside your father. Take it. I'll ask him, by the way, were you beside your father the entire time? No. He says, okay, but next time maybe you want another 5 minutes and then you'll get even more. You come, you give them all of a sudden they go, I want to do it. I want to do it. But if you're just going to give them on the head, you weren't so it's not. You always need that also positivity that is good. Again, we have to work on ourselves. I include myself. And we have to always, it's a work in progress, as we always say. But now that we understand how we're supposed to do it, it actually changes the entire way, right, of the way that we're working. Bezat Hashem, okay? So we'll continue.